ZBCN to me still really reminds me of something called XDC. Even though nothing I say is financial advice, the way to take a look at it is that, yeah, sure, XDC has a way bigger market cap right now. Like, for instance, XDC's current market cap is around 1.3 billion, whereas something like ZBCN currently is around 400 million. So, again, XDC is way bigger right now, but then at the same time, we have to kind of consider the markets that they're focused on. When it comes to XDC, focus on payments, generally speaking, and as well as global trade and finance. When it comes to Zebec, it also has those aspects too. It's focused on other things too, which I'm going to talk about later on in the video, but then still, it's also focused on payments and global trade and finance, and it's often kind of compared in a sense. And here's the thing. When it comes to XRP and XLM, they're the market leaders, right? But then for the longest time, I feel like the only other alternative that I see people talking about is something called XDC, and that was kind of it. There was really no other thing to kind of contest it, I feel like. But then now, with ZBCN, with a market cap again that is around 400 million, it's beginning to reach up there. So it kind of reminds me of XDC in that sense. It also reminds me of XDC in a sense where, XDC again, it's viewed as an alternative beyond Ripple or Stellar, or should I say XLM and XRP. And ZBCN, I feel like it's kind of in that same category too. Maybe it's not as big as XDC as of right now, but it's heading up there. And that's why it kind of reminds me of that. Now, even though sometimes people like to tell me, okay, when it comes to XDC, it has an aspect of ISO 20022, whereas something like, ZBCN, or should I say Zebec, it is still working towards ISO 20022 compliance. So yeah, I understand that kind of, Zebec loses out on that sense, but then at the same time, it's working towards it, right? If it's not working towards it, it's a different case, but then it is working towards it. So I get why something like Zebec hasn't been really considered in a massive way yet as a very solid alternative beyond something like Ripple or Stellar, just because of that ISO 20022 aspect, right? That they still need to work on, quite essentially because they are working towards that compliance. I totally understand that, but it's just giving me the vibe of an XDC. And by the way, if Zebec could actually achieve that, hopefully very soon, now it's becoming more so of a even kind of level competition, the way you take a look at it. So I do like that. Now, I think kind of the unique thing about Zebec as well is that it has a Solana aspect, right? So then when it comes to Solana, it's a very popular layer 1 blockchain. Again, a lot of people know Solana. Even ZBCN not too long ago was top 10 in terms of utility when it comes to Solana. So again, when I take a look at something like ZBCN, I must say I'm a fan of it. Not to say that I don't like XDC, because I do, but then it just kind of reminds me of that, but just a little bit smaller, right, in the grand scheme of things. Now, if I take a look at ZBCN, going to 10 cents is around a 21x from here. Market cap at that point would be around 9 billion considering current circulating supply. XDC currently, market cap is already over 1 billion, right? So if let's say, XDC went to the current market cap of XLM right now, which is slightly over 10 billion, what is that, around a 10x from here? It's actually slightly less than a 10x from here, but you know what I mean? It is kind of already kind of massive to the point that reaching, some of the greater heights, the hypothetical upside just doesn't feel maybe as fantastic in a make-believe scenario when compared to something like ZBCN. Now, don't get me wrong, I still believe in XDC, because I kind of want to use it as one of my foundational pieces because it is more established. But then, ZBCN, a lower market cap, still working towards ISO 20022 compliance, I feel like fundamentally, the best days are still ahead, right? When it comes to XDC, it's already kind of done its thing. It's already had that ISO 20022 aspect. It's already been established. It's already known as this other alternative beyond XRP and XLM. So again, this is why, even though I believe in XDC, I kind of view ZBCN as if it's like its XDC, but then maybe in a sense as if I went back in time and, kind of entered in a moment where the project hadn't really popped off yet in such a massive way, even though, again, ZBCN with around a $400 million market cap is pretty massive. It hasn't really been considered kind of in that same popularity level as something like XDC. But yeah, even besides all that, when it comes to Zebec, why do I think that even despite me again believing in XDC, I just kind of feel like it is a little bit more dynamic in terms of its avenues of its focus, right, so to speak. I feel like it has more avenues to hypothetical success because, Zebec, it's focused on the Zebec cards, which I get it, a lot of other projects out there have cards, but you have to kind of consider, again, the grand scheme of things, because, again, Zebec is focused on AI-based PayFi as well. It's focused on RWAs, or should I say real-world assets. It's also focused on, payments, of course, global trade and finance, but then it's also focused on payrolls. So when it comes to Zebec, there's many ways for it to kind of do its thing, right? When it comes to XDC, again, it is very massive, it's very well established, but then if I take a look at kind of the approach that Zebec is taking, I just like it in terms of its, kind of variables, right? Where it's just focused on a lot more things. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, that's actually kind of a bad thing because, they may think, oh, it's focused on too many things at once. I could understand that, but it's actually not too many, right? If ZBCN, or should I say Zebec, is focused on like 50 different things, that's a different case, but it's kind of not in this case. All I'm doing is staying patient. Don't get me wrong, I still believe in XDC as well. I'm staying patient with both projects, actually. But then, to me, I am just still staying patient because I understand that, ZBCN had a pretty okay recovery and now it's having a slight pullback. But then, you know what? It is what it is. I kind of feel like the market is going to do its thing. I have no control over that. Like, literally, I cannot demand the market to do anything. I cannot affect it in any way. The only thing I can do is just control myself. So that's what I'm doing. When I was first believing in ZBCN, it was a lot harder than right now. It was a lot harder for me to believe in that. But then, of course, ZBCN had a very good rally. Now there was a pullback, and then there was a pretty good recovery, and then a pullback again, and then pretty okay recovery, and now we're seeing a slight pullback. It's like a roller coaster, the way you take a look at it. I'm just going to enjoy the ride, because I believe in this project. It is what it is. It's going to have its ups and downs. But I kind of knew that getting into it. Personally, me holding ZBCN is my own decision, right? No matter what someone told me or whatever I, saw or something like that, or I read up online, ultimately the decision is myself. So whatever happens to ZBCN in the next 2, 3, 4, or 5 months, it's beyond my control. But ultimately, I am just staying patient because I'm a fan of the project. Me being a fan of a project doesn't mean it's going to do good, right? Like, who knows? But then I just want to just stay patient and hold, because if, let's say, an altcoin season happens during the cycle, be it this month, or let's say it has to wait even all the way up until next year, whatever the case that may be, let's say even March of 2026. Again, it's beyond my control, but I want to stay patient. But nonetheless, you know what? ZBCN to me kind of reminds me of XDC. But then again, it was just a lower market cap. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's Polly the Captain. I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.